About a week ago, I ran into Lee Hodge, and Lee Hodge is with Pueblo County, and he introduced. I hadn't seen him in years. He used to be with El Paso County, and I ran into him in the hallway, and he introduced me to the staff at his office, and he said, "This is Ross Wright. He's the executive director of Hope and Home. They are a recruiting machine." And I remember at the time thinking, I love that title. And the reason I love that title is I have a 5-year-old grandson named Archer, and he loves machines. His favorite machine in the world is the front loaders, the excavators. He just loves excavators. But he loves any kind of machine, especially that transforms into another machine. And so, a person that can also fly and be like a robot. So he loves all those machines. So I remember thinking, I love the fact that Lee has introduced me as a machine. But that's not that uncommon, because Hope and Home in the last 10 years has gotten very, very good at recruitment. In fact, about 10 years ago, we made a decision at the corporate level of Hope and Home, together with our board, that we would vastly improve our recruitment. At that point in time, a number of new laws were coming into effect. Many of you remember that was back in 2015, 2014, when Julie Crow pulled together a group of people at the state level and invited all the RTCs and all the congregate care facilities and all of us foster care providers to the same place and told us that the 4E waiver was coming into effect. We were also looking at differential response. Family First was coming, and at the same time we were looking at some of the changes down the pipe of what was going on with kinship care. So with all those changes happening, the warning was that many of you will not be here in the future if you don't make some changes, if you don't adapt. And Julie had brought some people with her from other states to show how those states had adapted to these new laws. And my background, I'm from Boulder. I was born and raised in Boulder. I worked at Boulder Psychiatric Institute. I worked at Centennial Peaks Hospital. I spent a long time working in the residential world. I ran a ongoing unit for 7 years. Then I went to Hope and Home 25 years ago. So I've been in some aspect of child welfare for the last 50 years. And a lot of my old friends were in the RTC world. So I reached out to them and asked them what they thought of that prognosis. And they said, "Oh, we've heard it. We've heard it forever. That residential is going to go away. We're too big to fail. And hey, what are they going to do with all those kids?" Well, we know what happened. The organization I was with, Cleo Wallace Center, is now out of business. Excelsior is out of business. A number of these organizations became dinosaurs and they went out of business. And so it was up to us at Hope and Home to say, well, what are we going to do differently? And so we went through a process with our board of analyzing what we feel like we do well and what does the world need from us and how do we survive in the new world. And the answer was, we're going to do foster care and we're going to do recruitment. We're just going to get as good as we can at it. And at that point in time, we had about 75 kids in care and about 100 foster parents in one location. Today, we have 350 kids in care, we have 7 locations, and we have about 250 foster parents. And we're doing everything we can to get bigger than that because we know that there's a need. And so this is our story. And I hope that this is helpful to you. If there's something that we have learned in the process that you can learn from us, that's what the purpose of this workshop's about. And if you don't get anything out of this, then I apologize. Hopefully there's something in this that you can take home with you. So this is our story of how we went from recruiting about a dozen to 20 foster parents a year to recruiting over 100 foster parents a year. Right this year, we're on track to recruit 120 new foster parents. So this is what we're going to try and help you work through. To tell you a little bit about Hope and Home, we are a nonprofit child placement agency who up until recently did pretty much one thing. We recruited, trained, supervised and supported foster parents. A couple of years ago, we made a commitment to the state of Colorado that we will go anywhere that you need us to go. And the first phone call we got was from Cheyenne Wells. Anyone know where Cheyenne Wells is? It is on the eastern, as far east as you can go without being in Kansas. In fact, we made a mistake when we were driving. We missed the exit. Next thing we knew that we were in Kansas. And one of our staff members who has joined us here today took pictures of us coming back into Colorado and posted them all over the internet, showing that we were, welcome to Colorado. After Julie had done that meeting with us in 2014, we heard from her again in 2017 when we had begun just the very beginnings of recognizing that with the new laws coming in, especially Family First, in particular Family First, we had 100 kids in Colorado Springs in El Paso County that were going to be out having to leave where they were. We had 100 kids in congregate care, and every one of them needed to move out. And so we met with Julie Crow, Dennis Desperos, and we said, what do we need to do to get these 100 kids out of congregate care? So we started a program called the 100 Kid Rescue. And the idea was we can do targeted recruitment and move these 100 kids out of congregate care, because this program was scheduled under Family First. By October of the next year, we were going to have to close all of those congregate care facilities. So we had 100 kids that had to move out. I'm very proud to tell you that in the course of 1 year, we moved 88 kids out of congregate care. 88 kids. And if we were able to do that, I remember feeling very proud at the same time as feeling kind of embarrassed, kind of disappointed in myself, because I was thinking we as a community were able to move 88 kids into foster homes and get them out of congregate care. What were they doing in congregate care if we could do that? So it was a little bit of an incrimination of us as a society that we had those kids there, because we could do it. And we ran the numbers on this. We saved the government somewhere around $7 million a year by getting 88 kids out of congregate care. That was the savings. That's a financial note. There's also a human note in getting 88 kids out of institutions and into family homes. So that told us we can do it. We can do it. We can recruit the families necessary to get kids out of congregate care. Now, how do you do that? That's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, is how do you move 88 kids out of congregate care into foster families? How do you recruit foster families to do this? Now, before we jump into that, we're going to show you a quick video.
In high school, I worked at a stuffed fruit place.
We don't have to go back that far. More recent.
All right. Well, advertising, 8 years, Ross and McMahon.
What was your previous salary?
$80,000 was the base salary, and then I was in a bonus situation, which would give me anywhere from 15 to 25, depending on, the year that we had, and generally $100,000.
$100,000? Over what period of time are we talking about?
A year.
A year?
What's so funny?
Nothing. That's very good. What brings you around these parts? Trying to double up on that income?
Well, I've come here to live. I'm trying to change my life.
You couldn't change your life on $100,000?
What have you got for me? Any jobs?
I don't have anything right now. What I do have, you wouldn't be interested in. Why don't you check back with me in a month?
Well, you don't know that. I'm very interested. What do you have?
Coming from your position and your salary, you wouldn't be interested in it.
Well, you don't know me. I might love it. What is it?
A crossing guard.
What is that? A crossing guard?
A crossing guard.
At a school?
Where else have you seen them work?
I just didn't know if there were different kinds. What does that pay?
$100,000.
What does it really pay?
It pays $5.50 an hour plus benefits.
And the benefits meaning?
You get a ride to and from school if you need it.
Do you have anything at all? Can you rack your brain? Something maybe in the executive file, or maybe you have a a white collar box or something.
What sort of box would that be?
Just a box of higher paying jobs.
Oh, I know. You mean the $100,000 box.
I love this film because of the $100,000 box concept. And one of the things I love to do at Hope at Home is I love to go out and meet with counties and talk to them about their needs. What do they need? How can we help? What can we do to support you? And as we travel around Colorado and I get the opportunity to meet with many of you, I get the exact same response, no matter whether it's a giant county or it's a small county. Every single one of you says exactly the same thing to me, okay? And this is what it is. I come into the county and I say, we're interested in spreading out around Colorado, but do you guys want another CPA? Do you really want us here? And here's the answer every single one of you says to me. Well, if what you're saying is you would come here with families that want little compliant kids to grow their homes, or you want babies, no, we have plenty of those families. But if you have families that will take our children without placements, take the kids who are sex offenders, violent offenders, heavy drug use, the kids who have diagnoses and medications longer than your arm, if you have homes for kids who need Narcan on a regular basis to be revived, kids that smear stuff all over the walls of our houses, if you have kids that, if you have families that will take the kids that are living in our buildings right now, our children without placements, our CWAPs, if you have homes for those kids, yes, we would love to have you come here. And every time you tell me that, I think in my head about this movie, and I imagine saying to you, well, hang on a second. Let me check the $100,000 box and see if we have some of these families. And you know what? There is no $100,000 box. That's the name of our presentation, and it's kind of a trick because there is no $100,000 box. There wasn't one for him, and unfortunately, I don't have the box that has those families in it. And that's the hard part about recruitment, is we're all led to believe that if we could just do recruitment right, if we just found the formula, if we just got the right recruiter, if we just ran the right ads, if we just hired a advertising agency, there must be some sort of silver bullet out there. Maybe we could run ads on pizza boxes. If there's some sort of secret, and all we have to do is uncover it, then we can have the $100,000 box. And in that box is the family that will take the hardest kid that we've ever had, the kid that carves her arms up inside of the psychiatric hospital by gnawing the rivets out of her blue jeans. I know that kid because we had her. He's the most expensive kid in the history of Colorado, who's the most lethal, that spent the most time in the hospital, state hospital, and had more diagnoses than you can imagine, more medications in every RTC she went into, in every hospital. They rearranged all those medications, made her more unstable, and she ended up in one of our homes, and we got her into a family that wanted to adopt her. How? Not in the $100,000 box. The answer is there is a way of doing it. There is a way of recruiting families that will take these kids, but there is no $100,000 box. Now, we're going to get to that in just a moment because there are two secrets to recruitment. The second secret is how to get the phone to ring. First secret is, what do you do with the phone when it does ring? Okay? How do you answer the phone? When people would say to me, Ross, you have a recruiting machine. How do you do it? The first thing I always say to people is, answer the phone. Answer your blasted phone. Simple. Well, we're going to unpack that because it's not that simple. Answering the phone is not that simple. So we're going to pass out right now a self-eval. And remember, it's a self-eval, so you're taking this on behalf of your company. And while you're taking a look at this and while Gina's passing this out, I'm going to tell you what happened to me the other day. I woke up, I had places to go, things to do. I was running late. I went to get in the shower, and it was all cold water. And not being a real expert in how hot water works, I thought maybe it was just that shower. So I went and checked the other showers in my house, and lo and behold, it was all the showers. None of them worked. And I checked the faucet in the kitchen, and it was cold too. And sure enough, my hot water heater was out. So I did what we all do. I went to the internet, and I looked up plumbers, and I called the three that I recognized, three that I had, I recognized their names. So I called all three of them. The first one I called, I didn't get an answer. I got an answering machine that says, leave your name and number, we'll call you back. I didn't do that because I've got a serious problem here right now. I need hot water. I can't wait. I don't want to leave a message and not know when you're going to get back to me. Or maybe you're going to call me back and I'll miss the call. We'll go back and forth. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to leave a message. So I go to the second one, and a very nice lady by the name of Katie answers the phone. And Katie says, how can I help you? And I start telling her about all the problems with my hot water heater, how all my faucets aren't working, and how they're all cold water. And she says to me, I don't know anything about hot water heaters. I've only been on the job for 3 days. And I ask her about price. She doesn't know. She says, but you know what I can do? I can schedule you an appointment to have someone come out and replace your hot water heater. And I said, great. And she scheduled me an appointment for Wednesday afternoon. This was Monday. So I hang up the phone. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I got the last 3 days. But I think, I've got 3 names. I'll call the third one just in case. So I call the third one. A lady answers the phone. I start telling her about my hot water heater. I tell her about how the showers are cold, all of them. And she says to me, well, I don't know anything about that, but I can connect you with Steve. He's our technician. He's here right now. He's a plumber. And so she connects me with Steve. And Steve says, well, what kind of hot water heater do you have? And I like, the kind that makes the water hot? I don't know. She says, are you at home? I go, yeah. He says, go downstairs and take a look at it. And I'll hold. So I go downstairs. I find the name on the hot water heater. I tell him what it is. He goes, yeah, we carry those. He says, how many gallons is it? I said, 75. He goes, wow, why do you have so much? I said, because we like hot water. I have girls, I have teen girls in my house. We need hot water. And he says, well, you don't need 75 gallons. 40 will do you. And you're paying for a more expensive hot water heater than you need. And if you have only 40, then you're heating less water. It's going to save you money on heating. I said, great. He says, do you have a thermal expansion tank? I was like, what? He says, you have a thermal expansion tank. I said, I don't know. I barely know what a hot water heater is. And I actually thought the different faucets would deliver different heat temperatures of water. And he laughed. He says, no. He says, look around the room and tell me if you have one. I said, I don't even know what one would look like. He said, do you have FaceTime on your phone? I go, yeah. He says, FaceTime. So now I've met Steve. I've seen him. He's seen me. I'm going around my room like this, showing him what. He says, you don't have a thermal expansion tank. You need one. He says, that's code now. Probably wasn't when your hot water heater was put in. And so he tells me about what it's going to cost. He tells me he has one. He tells me he can install it. He can be there by Thursday, 1 day later. So what do? I call Katie up and I cancel her. Even though she can do it 1 day earlier, I have faith in Steve because I've connected with him, because he's talking to me. We've seen each other. He's interested. He cares. He's actually selling me down, telling me how I can buy something less expensive when he could have upsold me. I know nothing about water heaters. So I trust him, right? And also when he's talking about this thermal expansion unit, I don't trust the first guy won't get out there and discover it and then have to reschedule for the next week. So I make the appointment with Steve. I call Katie back up. I said, thank you so much for taking my call. I need to cancel my Wednesday appointment. I'm going with a different agency. She says, great. So the question we have for you today as we take the self-eval, are you the no-name company that never got a chance at my business? Are you Katie, who did a good job? Nothing wrong with what Katie did. Or are you Steve, the person that earned the job? And by the way, the company's name is Olson. and I recommend them every chance I get. And they slap their label right on my water heater, and now whenever anything goes wrong, I know exactly who to call. So we're going to go through this list, and we're going to see whether or not your agency is the no-name one that never got the chance. Are you Katie, or are you Steve? Question number 1. And remember, this is for you alone. You don't turn it in. The question is, does a person answer the phone? When they call your agency, do you get a person or do you get an answering machine? If you get an answering machine, does it put you through to a person? Do you actually get to talk to someone when you call your agency, just like I got to talk to Steve? Number 2, do you offer individualized consultations and tours? When someone does come in, do they actually get to meet with somebody, or do they get put into a group process? Number 3, this one's the most important. Do you collect data on referral patterns and throughput of families, focusing on conversion rates at turning points, and adjust as necessary? It's complicated, so I'll read it a second time. Do you collect data on referral patterns and throughput of families, focusing on conversion rates at turning points, and adjust as necessary? What does this mean? The question is, are you keeping track of your data? If people are calling you, do you know where they're calling you from? Do you know why they're calling you? Do you know where they heard about you? Are you tracking how many people call? Are you tracking their turning points? And are you tracking their throughput? How many people in this room are familiar with what's called moves management theory? Moves management theory is the process of analyzing the movement of people. Okay? People move through your organization. Lots of organizations study this. Disneyland is phenomenal at this. Hundreds of thousands of people move through their parks every single day. They have to know where they spend their time. They have to know how long they take to get through the turnstiles, how long they're going to be on Main Street, how long it takes to get to Adventureland. They are experts at managing your movement. Okay? You don't even feel like you're being managed, but they are managing your movement. Managing the movement of customers through your system is essential. Moves management theory is the process of analyzing the moves that people make through your organization and managing it. Okay? So you need to manage people as they move through your organization. Turns is how many turns they have to make to get to where they're going. How many turns do they have to make to get to where they're going? So someone calls you up, they're interested in being a foster parent. How many turns are they going to make before they become one? Very simple premise of move management theory is the more moves, the more complicated, the more you have to manage, and the higher likelihood they're going to drop out. If it's 6 moves to get from point A to point B, you have 6 times that they can drop out. If there's 3 moves, you have 3 times. And you get to manage each move. How effective you are at moving, or managing their movement is going to tell how effective you are at getting them to the end of the process. So, logic dictates that the fewer moves, the better, and the more qualified you are at managing those moves, the more effective you're going to be. So, do you manage those movements and do you track it? Okay? These are essential questions. So just to sneak over here to the board. Let's go to the board, shall we? My staff hates it when I say that because I've been saying it every time. I had a professor in college that would always say, I think he was English, he'd say, let's go to the board, shall we? So I say that every time. He also likes to say process. And so any chance I get to say process, I do. So we're going to study the process of moves management theory. Let's assume that you get 1,000 phone calls, okay? If you have a 50% conversion rate, At Hope and Home, we have gotten the moves down to 3. We started at 6. Now we're down to 3. There are 3 moves that you have to go through as a customer, and we have to manage you through all 3. The first one is you call us and we get you to come into an individualized tour, okay? Just you. And we're going to take you for a tour of our place. It's really a consultation, but the word consult scares people, so we say we're going to give you a tour. So that's the first move, moving you from the call to the consultation. Once you show up, our goal is to move you from a consultation to an application. Once you fill out the application, our goal is to move you through the process of training and home study to the point of issue certificate form. Those are the 3 moves. If you have a 50% conversion rate at each of those 3 moves, that means of 1,000 phone calls that come in, 500 are going to show up at your consultation, 250 are going to fill out an application, and 125 will become foster parents. You're going to talk to 1,000 people in order to manage the moves necessary to have 125 foster families. What if your conversion rate's only at 40%? That 1,000 drops down to 400. The next number is 160. The next number is 64. What about 30%? At 30%, 1,000 drops to 300. And then 30% of 300, you're going to have roughly 100. And of those, you're going to end up with 30. And how about 20%? 1,000 people call you, 200 of them come to your consultation, 40 of them sign up, and you end up with 8. People are always asking me, how do I get this number higher? How do I increase the number of phone calls? What we can see from here is you can increase this number as high as you want, but if your conversion rates are low, it's not going to make a difference. You're going to spend a tremendous amount of time managing the moves of 1,000 people to recruit 8 people. That is a lot of work. That is 1,000 phone calls. I had Spencer Shea, who was in here earlier. She's our director of licensing. She was telling me how she had someone on the phone for 95 minutes the other day. And that was that person's 3rd phone call. So you're going to talk to these people for hours and hours. And you're not just managing 1,000 people. You're imagining their dreams, their aspirations. They're going to tell you what they want to do. They're going to tell you what their obstacles are. They're going to call you back and say they've cleared out those obstacles. You're going to talk to them about what their next move is. You're going to help them schedule their CPR. You're going to set up their appointments. 1,000 people. And if your rates are down in the 20s, you're going to do a lot of work just to get a few foster families. And so without analyzing this, it's very typical for people to say, well, we just need more phone calls. We need to spend more money on advertising. We need to have more people sitting in booths. We need to do those things. And I'm going to tell you real simply, that's not true. Okay? You don't need more phone calls. You need to manage the phone calls that you're getting better. And you can see how these little numbers, they're not that big, 40 to 50, 50 to 30, 30 to 20, how these very small numbers, when you go through multiple turns, end up being very profoundly important. 1,000 people to get 8 is not worth it. You not only have to talk to those people, you have to track them. You have to call them back. You have to have a database. Because when they call you the second time, they're going to reference what they talked to you about the first time. Think about how much work that is and how you're really kind of setting up the poor person that's doing this job if you don't create the infrastructure to make sure you do it well. Developing the infrastructure here is critical. Okay, let's look at some real numbers. This is a Hope and Home licensing report. These show different periods of time. The inquiries, the tours, the admission meetings, the licensed families. These are different dates. This is the tour rate of January to July 2024. This shows our rates here. We're at 34%. Our admission rates were higher. Our licensing rates were at 55, and we converted a total conversion from beginning to end of roughly 15%. August to December of the same year. Do you see how we analyze this, how careful we are to really understand exactly what's going on? Because if you don't know where to make your improvements. You don't know what to fix. Is the problem that you're not getting them in? Is the problem that once they get in, you're losing them? If you don't know, you can't make changes. You can't adjust. And you see here by the last year, by 2025, our tour rate was at 51%. Our admission rate, our second turn was at 67%, roughly the same as our licensing rate for an overall licensing rate of 23%. These are good numbers, and it takes a long time to get there. Okay? So in this situation, we were able to get 471 phone calls and license 106 of them. We licensed 106 in 2025. We're on schedule to license 125 in 2026. If you don't pay this much attention, you're not going to be able to make impactful changes. Let's go to the next one. Here, we're looking at what we call the licensing funnel. License families, admission meetings, tours, inquiries. What we're also doing is we're looking at the different regions that we're in, the Western Slope, the mountain regions. We're looking at the different certified families, comparing them from year to year. And we're looking at the reason the deal was lost. The word deal is part of the software program we use. I don't like the word deal, but this means that the foster family was lost in the process. Let's go to the next one. This gives a bigger analysis of where we lost it and why. Go to the last one. And here's a licensing report. What's important about this one is we're analyzing it up here, but we're also looking at it by region and by licensing specialist. We analyze everything we do by specialist, by region. And this is really important. We had a very interesting thing happen to us a year and a half ago, and that is we had a new team emerge. A brand new team was going to start doing licensing out of our Denver office. So we had our initial team train them. The team that had designed all of this trained the new team. So Team A trained Team B. Our A team trained Bravo team. And we got to the end of the year and we compared all these numbers. The brand new team beat the pants off the old team. They were twice as good. That sounds crazy, but it's true. They were twice as good. And we couldn't believe it. We went in, we looked at all the data, we looked at it all, we compared it. Yep, Team B beat Team A by 100%, meaning twice as good. If you went to Team B, you had twice the odds of getting licenses if you went to Team A. We went back and looked at every single case, why it was lost, and we couldn't find anything. Because anecdotally, it all made sense. But aggregate statistics don't lie. And that's why you have to do statistics, because looking at it, it all made sense. But when we analyzed it, it didn't. And then we made changes to those systems to accommodate this, and now the whole system is back up again. We made some changes to who was in the licensing funnel and where they were based on the data that we got. So this data is really critically important. Let's go to question number 4. Do you have a dedicated team with separate duties responsible for certification? This is really an important question. There's 2 parts of this. One is, do you have a dedicated team doing it? When we started, we didn't. The person that did licensing also was a home supervisor. They did it in their spare time. How many of you know caseworkers with spare time? Do you have any caseworkers with spare time? We didn't. And so when I give this job to someone to do in their spare time, what ends up happening? Doesn't get done. Exactly. goes on their back burner, doesn't get done. The tyranny of the urgent takes over. So what we did was we came up with a team that was dedicated to it. They don't do anything else. And then we differentiated it. I'll tell you a secret that you already know. Clinicians are terrible at paperwork. If you don't know that secret already, you're not in child welfare. Clinicians are terrible at paperwork. Guess what? Clinicians are also terrible at sales. So when you have a clinician who's going to do the home study, and they're supposed to track all the paperwork, and they're supposed to meet with the family in the first place and convince them that this is a good idea for them, you're creating a sofa that folds out to be a pool table and a bed. It's not good at any of them. And so what we did is we split it into 3 different roles. A person that meets with you when you first come in the door, and that is your salesperson. We call them licensing specialists. And that person stays with you through the entire process. You call them, they connect with you, and they stay with you, and they remember you, and they track you. And then they hand you off. They don't get rid of you. They just hand you off to the paperwork person that's going to help you with all your paperwork. And then at some point they introduce you to the person that does your home study. But it always comes back to that person. They're the one that checks in with you. As you're doing your paperwork, they also check in with you at the end of the process and make sure that things went well when you did your home study. They're the ones that call you and make sure that you're on track. They're the ones that answer questions when you want to know where to go. They're the ones that set up your CPR. That licensing specialist runs you through everything, and they're a salesperson. They're usually ex-foster parents. Okay. Last question. Do you have a clear script for your sales team centered around your USP? What's a USP? Well, I tell you on the form. Unique selling proposition. Your organization needs to know what its unique selling proposition is. Why you? Why should I go to you? What about you is the right reason for me to pick you? Okay, that's your unique selling proposition. Every agency has a unique selling proposition. There are 34 CPAs in the state of Colorado. There are 35 CPAs in the state of Colorado now. There are 64 counties. Why should I pick you? I have 99 choices. What is it about your company that's unique that you can sell to me? Why should I pick you? We're all pretty good at being consumers nowadays. We're able to read Amazon reviews. We know which ones are real. We know which ones are fake. We know what we're looking for. You need to tell me why I should pick you. And if you don't know, how am I going to know? Every member of your organization should know their USP, but in particular, your salespeople should know it, and they should have a script that they're following. And if they don't, how am I going to know it? So these are the 5. Take a few moments here and total up your numbers, and let's find out how many Steves we have, how many Katies we have, and how many no names we have. Like I said, this is private to you, so I'm not going to ask anyone to share it unless they'd like to. Do we have any Steves in the room? I'm not surprised. Steves are hard to find. How about Katies? Do we have any Katies? Yeah, kind of some Katies. Most of us fall in that first category, and if you do, don't feel bad about it. So did we. That's where we were. And it was only when we decided to really study this thing, analyze it, and commit to it, and commit to the fidelity of it, that we were able to make a difference. Now, I'm just going to do another, as Jack would say, shameless plug. Hope and Home is operating off of grants in a way that we can provide free consultation to anybody in the room. If you're interested in having us come work with you, we would be thrilled to do that. We can do anything from meet with you and help you build up your systems to do it for you. We can do your recruitment for you. We have over a dozen counties in the state of Colorado that we do all of their recruitment for them. Does it mean it's perfect? Not yet. But why isn't it perfect? Why can't we go into your county and solve everything right away? Because there's no $100,000 box. But what we can do is we can develop and grow your program. So we talked about what to do when the phone rings. Our next step is let's get the phone to ring, okay? So how do we get the phone to ring? Most people tell me, I can't hire a recruiter. We don't have any money. Does that sound familiar? We don't have any money. We don't have any money to do this. I'll tell you the secret, you don't need a recruiter. The number one source of our phone calls at Hope and Home is our foster parents. Word of mouth is our number one referral source. Our number two referral source, and this upset some people in the last group, is other foster care agencies, foster parents. That's our number two referral source. Foster parents from other agencies. Because they tell people, you should be a foster parent, but if I had it to do again, I wouldn't do it with you. I wouldn't do it with the agency I'm with. I'd do it with Hope and Home. That's our number two referral source. Our number three one is the county and state governments. People call the state and they call the county and they say, I'm interested in being a foster parent, how do I do it? And they say, I have a list. They say, well, which one should I pick on the list? And they say, we're not allowed to tell you. But if we were to do it, I would pick this one. And so those are our top three referral sources. Our foster parents, other agencies' foster parents, and the government. So what we've learned is that recruitment comes from the inside out. It's not something that layered on top. It's not like going and getting pizza boxes with your name on it or advertising agencies looking for that elusive $100,000 box. The best recruitment comes from your organization where everybody inside your organization knows and loves the USP, and they are foster parents that want to do it. Okay? They want to tell other people about it. They're so fired up. They want to make other families get involved. So we have a short video.
I've worked with the Navy SEALs, and I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6, right? Because they're the best, the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me, and on one side they wrote the word performance, and on the other side they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? They're SEALs. This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust. Of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they'll... They will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
I thought about warning you that there was a cuss word in this, but I figure you're all child welfare workers. And so you've heard worse things from 5-year-olds. Well, let's go to the board. Let's go to the board, shall we? Yeah, let's go to the board, shall we? So what we know is on this axis, on the y-axis, we have skills, and down here we have trust. And what Simon is telling us is this right here creates toxic leaders. What we also know is if we recruit foster parents that are high on skills, but we haven't established trust, we don't have alignment, we're not connected to them, they also become toxic. I have talked to so many counties that are so fed up with what they consider to be toxic foster parents. I worked with one county this summer that was so done with their foster parents that they jettisoned the entire program. Most of you know who I'm talking about. They said, we're done. We're just not going to do it anymore. They had 15 foster parents that were taking care of 13 kids. And they were saying that these families were all complaining constantly. We're done with them. We shouldn't have to have 15 families to take care of 13 kids and do so angry and grudgingly that blame everybody for everything, cost us a fortune. That county claimed that they saved $720,000 by getting rid of that program. But I'll tell you, when you talk to them, they were fed up because their families had become toxic. What causes that? It's real simple. Skill training without developing trust. Okay? Just same exact thing Simon Sinek is saying. If we develop skills but without trust, we get toxicity. One of the organizations that supports Hope at Home is In-N-Out Burger. They're wonderful. And they say, we hire the smile, everything else can be trained. They're saying the same thing. We look for people that we can trust. We look at people that we can count on with the customer, and then we train the skills. I'm going to say this and be really clear about it. If all you do is train skills, all you're going to get is skills trained. Okay? There was a guy, an English officer in 1907, who developed a program because he was an English officer in Britain, and he discovered in the Second Boer War that a lot of the soldiers he served alongside with had no wilderness skills and no survival skills. He felt that was wrong. He wanted to see that in the young boys as they were growing up. And the problem was in England at that time, there was rapid industrialization, and they were moving more and more urban and out of the rural communities where they learned survival skills and such. And so he said, we're going to design a program that teaches these boys how to tie knots, how to work with knives, how to survive. But he wisely realized that teaching young boys how to use knives and how to tie people up, bad combination, unless you also teach some other values with it, okay? So that program, which later became the Boy Scouts of America, trains everybody to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, kind, courteous, brave, clean, and reverent. I still remember that 50 years later. I'm not sure I got it right, but it's close. If we just train the skills, we end up with toxicity. We also have to train down here. What are we training? We're training the essentials, the things that we want to see out of foster parents. What are the red flags up here? I'll tell you exactly what they are. Whenever I hear a foster parent tell me, foster care is broken. No, it's not. It's tough. It's not broken. It's a legal system. It is designed to preserve the rights of all the people involved, and there are a lot of people involved. And we have to preserve their rights while finding the best interest of the child. That's not easy, and sometimes it takes a long period of time. Sometimes it goes into appeal. Sometimes that doesn't feel right to you, but it is not a consumer product. And most foster parents approach it like a consumer product, okay? And when it doesn't work for them, they say it's broken. It's not broken. And we have to teach our foster parents that when we recruit them. Foster parents that are toxic are the ones that say the caseworkers are stupid and the judges don't care about kids. You've all met these foster parents. I have done support group after support group with these foster parents. When you get a bunch of them in a room and they all start feeding on it and you get this negative spiral, you have to find a way to interrupt that spiral and bring them back. And it's not easy to do. It is a whole lot easier to recruit the right ones in the first place and to train them right so you don't end up with toxic groups and toxic foster parents. And so how do we do that? Well, we do that by looking for the essentials of what makes for a good foster parent. And I'm not talking about corporate values. I'm not talking about American values or Christian values. I'm talking about the essentials that foster parents need to have. And then what's essential to that process is you have to embed those essentials in everything you do. They are not a layer that goes on top. So when you recruit, you've got to recruit using these essentials. When you train, you have to train using these essentials. When you do HR, when you do home supervision, when you do reviews, when you have problems, you go back to the essentials. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up Jackie Wright. She's our clinical director. She's done a lot of work with us. She's just recently finished this article on it. Available to any of you if you want to take a look at this as an actual journal article on the essentials. And then Jackie is also going to talk a little bit about how this dovetails into how we do recruitment.
Hi. You probably have heard the statistic that came out in 2019 after a systematic literature review that about 30 to 50% of foster parents quit within the first year. We at Hope and Home wanted to see how our foster parents stack up against that. And so we started a long process of looking at our foster parents over the last 25 years. And we found 5 things that they have in common, that our most successful foster parents have in common. These are what we call the essentials. If we want foster parents to be successful, they have to develop these internal qualities. And so we start our training. The very first class they take is on the essentials, and they learn if you are going to be successful as a foster parent, you've got to develop these. This is a growth journey. It is not a customer journey. It is a growth journey. And they have to have a growth mindset to make it as foster parents. So the first essential is purpose. Purpose, they have to have a strong reason and purpose behind what they're doing. Some families who have a lot of faith in their life, they feel compelled by their faith to do foster care. Some families who may not ascribe to a faith, they just want to put good in the world. Other families show up to do foster care because they want to provide a safe place of inclusion for young people. And so the sense of purpose buffers stress whenever things get tough. Sense of purpose buffers stress when things get tough. But a sense of purpose is not enough to sustain a foster parent through their whole journey. The second thing they need is nurturing. Nurturing is trauma-informed care. Nurturing is the ability to see kids through the lens of trauma so they don't personalize their behaviors. We need families to be nurturing and to embrace trauma-informed care. You guys know all about that. The third one is expectations. We want to help foster parents manage their expectations in the beginning, but we also want to let them know that they have to also tweak their expectations throughout their journey because of how fast cases change, how quickly things can go a different direction than they were expecting. And so they need to be able to tweak their own expectations as they go through the foster care journey and as cases take different turns. That leads me right into flexibility. To be able to tweak your expectations, you've got to be flexible. We're talking about mental elasticity so that you can adjust those expectations, but we're also talking about logistical flexibility. They've got to have margin in their lives to adapt to the increased visits, the increased appointments, the transportation. They've got to have that logistical flexibility. And then they also need to have the ability to flex who they are, flex their style to meet a child where they are. So flexibility is number 4. And finally, community. Foster parents cannot do this alone. They need each other and they need their peers. When foster parents get certified, their whole social circle changes. Their normal friends may not want to hang out with them anymore. They may not understand why they're doing it. And so they may not want to do play dates because there's, foster kids in the home. And so their whole social circle changes, and foster parents need their peers. They need other foster parents who really get it, who can share the language, who understand how complex the child welfare system is, who understand the unique behaviors of kids in foster care. They need their peers. Hope and Home hosts over 300 support groups a month, and we provide trauma-informed childcare for every support group. So while parents are in support group, kids are also meeting other kids who are in foster care. They're building their own relationships. And so for once in that month, they're not the only kid in class who's in foster care. So it destigmatizes it and normalizes it for the kids. And so it has therapeutic value for the kids as well. Foster parents in support groups, they can just let their guard down and be transparent. They can share what they're really struggling with. They can hear from other foster parents. Being in support group also helps foster parents keep perspective, because when they, maybe go a whole month between support groups, they might start feeling sorry for themselves. They might start feeling, like they're a victim of the system. They come to support group and hear somebody else's story and they're like, I can deal with what I'm going through. I can handle this. So it gives them perspective, and that buffers them against stress so they can make it as foster parents. The interesting thing about these 5 things, you can't have one without the other. Foster parent has a strong sense of purpose. They know why they want to do this and they feel very strongly about it, but they're not nurturing. They're going to blow out because they can't handle the behaviors of the kids. If they're super nurturing, but they have rigid expectations, they're going to blow out because things don't go their way. So you have to have all 5 of these working synergistically to translate into foster parent success. So the essentials are the internal qualities that we want our foster parents to develop, and we start training them on these from the very beginning. And then we support this with an external infrastructure called ECO. And ECO stands for Education, Community, and Outreach. It is Hope and Home's unique selling proposition. And so with Education, Community, and Outreach, we provide the external supports for foster parents so they can cultivate the internal supports. And what this means in terms of what Ross was saying, the whole core of this workshop is that you don't have to get the phone to ring more. You have to answer the phone and handle it when it comes in. But you want to develop a culture where your foster parents do the recruiting for you, where your foster parents are spreading the word, where your foster parents want to share what they're going through. They want to share their experience with someone they know. And so this ecosystem and the essentials helps create that culture where foster parents can't help but talk about their experience with other families. And that's how we get the phone to ring. This is our ECO video.
People have an innate need to live with purpose, to wake up every day knowing they make a difference in this world.
At Hope and Home, our foster parents do just that. They live their lives with unmistakable purpose and undeniable mission, navigating the unique challenges of foster care together as a community of hope.
People come from all over Colorado to learn what's different about Hope and Home. And the answer is simple.
It's our people.
It's our culture.
It's our ecosystem.
Education,
community, and outreach.
Starting with our one-of-a-kind education platform, DaVinci is designed just for foster parents, 100% online and always on demand. DaVinci gives access to hundreds of training courses, carefully curated by child welfare experts to equip families in every stage of their foster care journey.
Then there's community, the heartbeat of Hope and Home culture, through monthly support groups with free trauma-informed childcare and a vibrant calendar of special events. Foster parents find solidarity, understanding, and lifelong friends. And kids find a safe place to dream, imagine, and play.
And finally, outreach. A team of Hope and Home employees with the sole purpose of providing 24/7 wraparound support to foster families, bringing clothing, car seats, a much-needed dinner delivery, or being a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, an ally in the world of child welfare.
All of this is brought to life through thoughtfully planted locations across Colorado, buildings that serve as ground zero for our ecosystem to grow and thrive, where every room is themed to uniquely serve kids and families, from clothing boutiques to coffee shops and tea parlors.
To video game rooms, movie theaters, and toy factories.
Hope and Home is more than a foster care agency. It's a way of life. We're proud to be the people of this great mission, people who have responded to the call, a community that is changing the world.
Okay, let's unpack this. What did we see?
Your USP.
Our USP, a unique selling proposition. What is it? ECO, education, community, and outreach. What didn't we see? We didn't see anything about money. We didn't see anything about adoption. We didn't see anything that says this is easy. We don't talk about those things in recruitment. What we talk about purpose, changing the world, making a difference, being part of something bigger than we are. And what happens when we engage a group of people who are passionate with the same USP and they want to change the world, then recruitment becomes organic. And the proof is in the pudding. I'm going to show you a list. I put a phone call out to my five program managers, and I said, guys, tell me about recruitment activities that have happened in the last 30 days. And this is 5 people. I called them in the middle of the day. I caught them off guard. I said, send them to me right away. In about 15 minutes, they sent these to me. So this is not a carefully curated list. This is a list of stuff that they just came up with that's going on in the last 30 days.
We did not go out and try to bring it in. It came to us.
These are all things that we're involved with different groups of people talking to us about how can we help, how can we be involved. This is the recruitment that happens when you have, for us, 250 foster parents, so 400 to 500 people altogether, their families, our staff, our board members, their families. This is a little rubber thing. The kids love these things. They're little bracelets that you put on. And we have these at Hope and Home, and our teens and kids love to wear these things. We found one of our teen boys in foster care grabbing a whole handful of these. And the staff member said, what are you doing with that? He says, well, I take them to school and I pass them out because people need to know about Hope and Home. So even our foster kids are recruiting for Hope and Home, telling people the story, who we are and what we can do. And so when you've got a committed group of people who have a unique selling proposition that they want the world to hear, they will sell it for you. Now, what's our job? Our job is to answer the phone when it comes in. So what have we learned? We've learned 7 things. 1, there is no $100,000 box. However, I have cursed everybody in this room with watching that video. And so for the rest of your life, when there's something that's impossible and someone wants it from you, you can think about the $100,000 box. Number 2, recruitment comes from the inside out. It's not layered on top. Number 3, it must be driven by the essentials, okay? We have to have the essentials, not just the skills. 4, your essentials must be embedded in your community, in your company. They have to go through everything. They're not layered on top. They're in your recruitment videos. They're when the people first meet with your foster families. It's when your home supervisors go out to the homes. When we have a blowout of a foster family, we analyze it using the essentials. It's in our support groups. Our support group leaders are trained in the essentials. Number 5, skills without essentials equals toxicity. Cannot say that. We've all experienced. 6, you must have the infrastructure and the data systems to constantly improve. If you don't have the infrastructures, you're setting your people up. They have to have the infrastructure to handle the phone calls. And 7, answer the bleeping phone. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you and what you guys do.